Hi, I'm Dynasty Chef Steve, and this is the Sunday IDP Live, a proud partner of the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast Network.
Welcome, IDP Fantasy Football fans. My name is Gary, a.k.a. the IDP Tipster on Twitter.
What's up, guys? It's Jordan Rains. You can find me at 50 Shades of Drunk on Twitter. I'm here joining Gary today. We're ready to break down some IDP stuff with you guys.
Before we get started, wanted to mention that unfortunately, due to some circumstances out of Jerry Gray's control, he is no longer going to be able to be with us every Sunday. We're going to move forward right now with me, Steve, and Jordan. The reason is he's in the Navy. He's not that far off from retiring, but unfortunately, the Navy has decided that they need to have him in other places at other times, and it's just not going to work with our schedule right now. So we wanted to let you know, Jared Gray is not going to be part of the Sunday IDP Live every Sunday. We will sorely miss his great takes and his knowledge of IDP and all fantasy football for that matter. But hopefully he'll, be able to figure some stuff out over the next few weeks and make some spot appearances with us until this kind of calm down for him. It's, he's a Navy guy, and it's just how things go. And we appreciate you still tuning in. If you're looking for Jared's takes personally, I just keep an eye on his Twitter accounts, and hopefully we still have some type of content coming out. But it's just the nature of the business, and sometimes life comes first before fantasy football, unfortunately. So with that being said, Jordan, what do you got going for us today?
Yeah, so, originally we were going to cover the NFC South today, but because training camp started and, news is rolling, people are getting cut, people are signing other places, we decided to switch it up today, and we're just going to go over some IDP relevant news. We might hit on the NFC South towards the end if we have a little bit of time, highlight some of the guys we wanted to highlight in that original show, but like I said, we're just going to call an audible today, and we're going to go with some news for you guys. So I guess let's go ahead and start. The kind of the biggest news that hit yesterday for IDP. I mean, you could say it's big news, I guess. I'm going to butcher this guy's name, but Robert Nkemdiche, D tackle or D lineman for the Arizona Cardinals, was cut. He got arrested a couple of times in the offseason. He hasn't really been productive, former first-round pick. But he got cut yesterday, so he's a free agent now. And Gary, what do you think about him and his prospects as he hits the open market?
It's one of those things. He was taken 29th overall a couple years back. It's one of those things that kind of fall in line with me, why I tell people not to depend on rookies personally. I have no real take. I think he was brought into the system at that point in time to be a defensive end. It doesn't really matter. I think they did turn him into a defensive tackle. He just flopped. So I would assume that because he hasn't been relevant, that we're not worrying about what he's doing on our rosters. If you've been holding on to this fella, you must have a really, really deep roster, or a taxi squad that's a mile long. So I really don't have much to say. I wouldn't be too concerned at this moment if he signs somewhere else. If somebody else gives him a chance, I'd leave it alone. I wouldn't worry about it.
Yep. Yeah, I kind of agree. I know they signed Darius Philon, I think his name is, or Philon, from the Chargers in the offseason this year. So they have some depth there, and he's been productive. So it kind of makes sense that with the new coaching regime, all the reports kind of said he got arrested a couple of times. He hasn't been productive, and apparently he hasn't been taking his rehab as seriously as the coaches wanted. So, it's the NFL. So he's gone. We'll see where he lands, and maybe he'll resurrect his career, maybe he won't. So
yeah, his odds aren't good.
Yeah, I don't think they're that great.
No.
All right, so the next kind of piece of news that broke recently or this weekend that's IDP related was Linval Joseph, the D lineman, D tackle for the Vikings. He's recovering right now from several off-season surgeries. He's not been cleared to practice. What do you think about that? Is there anyone behind him that you're keeping an eye on, or what are your thoughts? I know he's been pretty productive, and a lot of people seem to like him. So
I'm not going to flip out just yet until we get a little bit deeper into preseason. He's a veteran. Until we get news that he is, going to miss some time during the season, I would just sit tight right now. I wouldn't flip out until we get another piece of news. I'd still probably plan on his production and just keep track of this situation. I don't necessarily have somebody right in line for him to suggest. We have to see how preseason goes out personally.
Yeah. They got rid of was it Sheldon Richardson this offseason too, didn't they? He went to the Browns.
I was thinking Sheldon Rich.
I believe he went to the Browns.
Oh, yeah, I do believe that there was a fella that, yeah.
Anyway, they're
right.
It's not good for their interior defensive line, but Everson Griffin seems to have come back pretty strong, and Daniil Hunter has broken out. So, like you said, I'm not too worried. Yeah, it was Sheldon Richardson. He signed with the Browns, so the interior line's definitely going to take a hit, but we'll see. Like you said, we'll just monitor it. Maybe he's farther along in his recovery than they're letting on, and they're just babying him because he's a little bit older. But I guess we'll just have to see.
Yeah, they do have that kid that stepped in for Griffin when he was at the hospital and going through his mental evaluations last year. That Worthy, I think, he's actually a designated defensive end. So, I mean, I'm sure the guy could be cross-trained to play both.
Yeah, play some tackle or something.
Yeah.
All right, well, this is another piece. This is a more relevant piece of news, I should say, for IDP after a little bit of hype that came around. But it says Hason Reddick, linebacker for the Arizona Cardinals, underwent a knee scope and is likely to miss 2 to 4 weeks recovering. So he's pretty much going to miss all of preseason and camp. Yeah, I know there was a little bit of hype he was drafted really high by the Cardinals. I think like in the top 15 or 16 overall. He was 13 overall. He hasn't really banged for your buck where you took him, but this isn't great news. What are you thinking about this?
Well, it's really unfortunate on the timing here. I mean, some of these scopes, you could see a guy come back, no problem, couple weeks. But the timing of this, if it's more than that and we haven't heard about it, and this runs into most of this preseason, I mean, the guy's learning a new system. They've said a while back that he should be the inside linebacker, period, and he was going to concentrate on that. In the past, he was bounced all over the place in that formation. So, and he's going to be learning kind of a new system. So he's missing that time. I guess as long as he hits his books, stays in shape, and it's just a minor knee scope, until further notice, you can't really just write him off. I'm sure his ADP should start dropping a little bit. So that might buy some people some value. When I look at their depth chart that I have, they signed Joe Walker, which he had a little bit of hype in a preseason a couple years ago in Philadelphia. I don't see any glaring replacement for him. So I bet they're really hoping that his knee scope come back negative.
Yeah, comes back clean. They get it all out of there.
Right. So. They just don't show a lot right now in depth to even be to confirm who in the hell would be replacing him.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about I guess Bynes was the second leading tackler on the team last year?
Yeah, I happen to tell people I seen Bynes get signed last. They paid him well that when they had the different regime in there, I guess you could say. And I suggested everybody go take a hard look at Bynes. Bynes started the middle linebacker, and he just was killing it. But of course, he got hurt, so he fell off the map after that. If he's coming back strong, I mean, if he's healthy right now, we might see him get some play. But I mean, that's a flyer just to keep your eyes on, as far as I'm concerned at the moment.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, he will definitely be out there. I didn't realize this. He basically had the same production that Hason Reddick had, and he played 5 less games than him last year.
Yep, I actually had a lot of people that picked him up on my word that to keep an eye out on him, and it really worked out. It was really rolling. I owned him, and I was loving life, but then all of a sudden he got hurt. So,
Yeah, I own shares of Hason Reddick, and I'm not thrilled at this news, to say the least. But like you said, we'll just monitor it. Hopefully he can hit the field and be all right. So
Yep.
All right. This is another kind of big piece of news that broke over the weekend. The Green Bay Packers let go or release D lineman Mike Daniels, and then he was picked up a day later, I think 1 or 2 days later. Within 48 hours, he was signed by the Lions in the same division. So what are your thoughts on, I guess, this transition? What do you think it's going to do to the Packers line as far as the loss, and what's it going to do for the Lions as far as possibly bolstering their already somewhat well-built defensive line? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think as far as the Green Bay line, from an IDP perspective, the only guy I'm interested in is Kenny Clark to begin with. It didn't matter if Daniels was there. Yeah. Daniels has been there for a while. He has never been IDP relevant. Apparently, he's not been relevant enough for the team itself to hold him, so they've released him. You have it listed here on the depth chart that there's a Tyler Lancaster, Kingsley Keek, Dion. I know very little about these guys, so we're probably going to just have to figure this out. But I still stand by the only defensive lineman that you want from Green Bay right now is Kenny Clark. Yeah. As far as it goes with the Lions, it's another man in rotation. Probably, I don't see Daniels walking in and taking over anybody's job in there and being IDP relevant there either. He's a depth signing. We see this happen within divisions and conferences all the time. You get a little extra. Well, what are they doing over at that team? Don't think that doesn't happen. Don't think that they don't sign these guys from other teams that they're in their division, pull them into the office the first day and say, "Hey, man, so what do they got going on over there? What's your perspective?" Don't think that doesn't happen. This stuff's, it's a division. It's important.
It's the name of the game.
Right. And hey, we just paid you a couple $1 million to come over here and be a depth player. You won't even have to sweat, So yeah, that happens. That happens. But I don't really, when it comes to the defensive line, I don't see anything changing in Detroit either. Just maybe screwing up and putting a little bit of rotation on it. I don't see them replacing anybody on that line.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is kind of newsworthy. It's more IDP worthy, but it's not really that big of news. But San Francisco linebacker Kwon Alexander will be coming off the knee ACL last year, will be quote unquote eased into training camp. So I guess that's kind of more of a just positive. A headline than anything. Yeah, it's a positive. I guess they'll take care of him. What do you think about him coming into this year? I know, I've been up and down on him personally.
I'm worried. I mean, if I'm looking at it from an IDP's perspective, he is not falling out of the first 20 linebackers that's going to be drafted. And by then, I've already picked over him and filled my starting lineup if I got 3 or 4 to start. If he happened to be there and I'm looking at my first guy off the bench for bye weeks or whatever, then I'll grab him. But I'm not excited. I mean, he'd been hurt before. He's coming off this injury now. He's gotten suspended in the past. I'm one of those earn it to make it on my roster and make me feel secure so I can win every year. So personally, I'm not excited about it. If he can stay healthy, if he makes it through this, coming off this injury, I want to point out on a lot of these guys never return to form the first year back because they're still rehabbing while they're playing. So, you might be, if they're willing to hold him out right now, and they probably aren't going to play him through the preseason, I'd be shocked. You're really betting on a horse with a broken leg. You know what I mean?
Literally.
Literally. So I'd pump the brakes on him. If you can find anybody around his range while you're drafting, I would. Or, maybe I'd go as far as if I owned him, I'd see what I could get out of him in trade bait, just to see.
A lot of people like him. So I think that's exactly where you need to go from that is what can you get for him right now?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, his production's going to be high if he's okay. But, I mean, so is 20 other linebackers out there that you don't have.
Yep.
Oh.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on. This is the news this weekend was that Chris Jones is, still on this holdout. But according to his Twitter last night, he will be at the first Chiefs practice, which starts today. So
that's great.
That's great. Yeah, that's good news for him. That's good news for the Chiefs defense overall.
Yep.
What do you think about his contract situation, and what do you think about him kind of as a long-term fantasy asset?
They just need to sign him. There's no doubt about that. That just straight out pay the man.
Step one.
Step one. Pay, at least tell him you're going to pay him after the season. Do something to make him feel better. Shuffle some paperwork around, give him a signing bonus, whatever the hell it is that they do back in those rooms.
Yeah.
Just do something. You can't let that guy go. Not now. Not after you just set yourself up.
Yeah, especially if he's going to show up after his, little holdout. I think he's going to get paid.
He's working with them. Something's happening or he wouldn't show.
Yeah. So, all right, here's another little piece of news over the weekend. As camp started, guys were getting put on PUP list and whatnot. One of the guys that did hit the PUP list was my boy TJ Watt. I wasn't really exactly sure why he was on the PUP list. Let me double check here. Hamstring. Yeah, okay, I remember. Yeah, apparently during his conditioning test, his hamstring tightened up a little bit.
Yeah.
So, that's not great news, but
right. They're not taking any chances with this guy, with him. They're not. That's basically what that boils down to. So,
okay. That was kind of my thought as well. This is just a precautionary. I mean, he's not a guy. I mean, he passed his conditioning test with flying colors. So,
right.
He could do it without a hamstring, probably.
Right. Just give the guy a break. Put him on the list. Don't take the chance. Right. Exactly.
This is a little more on the rookie side of things, but Quinnen Williams with the Jets, he finally signed his contract. So I guess he's in full effect for the Jets defensive line, which kind of circles back to last week when we brought up Leonard Williams. So it's good to get their first pick on the field. Going to open up some stuff for Leonard Williams. What do you think about the possibility of Leonard Williams having a really big year?
When it comes to Leonard Williams, I mean, he should be set up. It really depends what they do with this new scheme up there and what they do. I mean, if they do the right thing, I think his sacks could go up a little bit. But realistically, bringing in who they brought in with Mosley and what they have in Avery, and then you got Adams up there and the sign, they should set him up. There's more talent for the offense to concentrate on blocking and stopping. And he's, Williams is a beast. I think we could see a little bit more production out of him, more consistent production as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I think the Jets, we went over them last week in our episode, but the Jets defense is just, there's going to be points there for everybody at the end of the day, and I think the rookie finally signing his contract, going number 3 overall, that's a big deal, and I'm glad he's going to be on the field practicing, learning how to.
And it doesn't do anything but help Williams.
Yeah,
period.
I saw him at a press conference, and he was talking about how he's been, with his whole, not being there or whatever, he's been watching YouTube videos, learning from guys on YouTube. He's like, I'm not paying for, a special coach. He's like, coach can't go out there with me. He's like, I'm taking knowledge, anywhere I can get it. Right. I thought that was pretty smart, and kind of funny too.
Yep. So. And he's a beast in his own right. I'm not a big rookie guy, as you all know, but there's no denying that this Williams is probably the two Williams guys next to each other are going to make an impact on that defensive line.
Yeah,
Period.
definitely. And that's kind of what I was circling back to the other Williams is like this, he was a high pick too, but he hasn't really produced for IDP. He had one good season with a bunch of tackles, but
Yeah.
he's just never really gotten to the quarterback. But I think with this big dude in the middle, I think he's going to come screaming off. He's going to take full advantage, I think. So
Yeah, it's really going to help.
Yeah, definitely. Another rookie signed. We got the number 3 rookie right there. He just signed. The number 2 rookie signed this weekend too. That is Nick Bosa.
Oh, yeah, he got paid.
Yeah, they both got. Bosa got $33.5 million 4-year contract, and Williams got $32.5. So, $1 million difference. Bosa's hamstring was bothering him in OTAs, I know, and I was actually a bit of news that said apparently it's coming along well. He should be ready for week 1. What do you think about him hitting that defensive line in San Francisco? And what do you think about the defensive line in San Francisco kind of overall? They have him, D Ford, Buckner on the line, Solomon Thomas. I think all those guys are first-round picks. Maybe D Ford's not. I'm not 100% sure on that. But what are your thoughts on what Bosa is going to bring to this line?
Well, I'm gonna quote our buddy Jared, and there are some concerns about his soft tissue injuries that he's been having. How he had an injury his senior year. There is some concern about it, but if he gets over this and he can prove that he can stay healthy and crest over the hill of this and being an NFL player. And sometimes you're asked to play hurt. Sometimes you just need to keep your mouth shut and do what you got to do. I look more forward to what Bosa does for Buckner. Buckner played a huge amount of snaps last year, and he was forced anyways. But he was pretty well the only dude that I would have feared if I was going up against San Francisco's defensive line overall. And I think adding D Ford and Bosa both into this mix helps Buckner a lot. I like Buckner's upside. I think they won't be able to double team him as much because they got to look at these other guys really hard. We'll know within the first 5 to 6 weeks what it really meant for who on there. But I'm looking more forward for Buckner.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with any of those guys. It's tough to say that they're all going to produce the way they did. Well, Nick Bosa hasn't produced at all, but it's tough to see D Ford and DeForest Buckner both with, 12 plus sacks. Right. But it could happen. Again, like adding Bosa to the mix, there's going to be a lot of chaos if you're a quarterback staring that line down, and you got to look past that line if you want to make a play. So,
right. And if Bosa can't play or if he misses a lot of time, then Buckner will probably still be the Buckner he was last year. Still, so But
he's another guy that apparently he wants a new contract, and they're kind of. The last thing I saw was that they were not getting close, but as far as I know, he's not holding out or anything, so that's good.
Right.
So,
everybody wants paid. That's what it's about.
Yeah, I don't blame guys. Your window for this is small. Get it while the getting's good.
Right.
It's easy to say, I don't like this or I don't like that. This guy's holding out, but it's like, again, this is their job, and they know what market value is. They're not stupid. they see what other guys are doing, and just because this guy's on a smaller market team or a bigger market team, the numbers don't lie. So I don't blame some of these guys for the leverage they have to use. So.
Speaking of getting paid, Wagner just got paid huge.
Yeah, there's some news. We didn't even talk about that. Bobby Wagner got paid finally.
Yeah. It happened to be Deion Jones got paid, a couple of weeks ago, and I think it made him the second highest in the league or something. And then, Wagner got paid, but that's well-deserved. And, that's I love both of these guys. They both run into similar situations. Wagner's a little longer in the tooth, but if they sign him for 3 years, I'm holding him for 3 years. Personally, I want to win. So
I agree. I think he's this is a good. For whatever reason, the age of 30 for football players just seems to be where our brains just shut them out. I know I do that. If I see a guy who's 28, 29, 30. I'm already looking past him, which I have to force myself a lot not to do. And, you look at guys like a perfect example is Antony Bethia. He's 34, and he had, he led the league in safety tackles last year, close to it. He was top 3 solo,
Right.
and it's like, I'm not looking past him this year. He was on my waiver wire, so I
Was he really?
Yeah, just because, and the only reason he was on my waiver wire is because he's old. I know that. I mean,
Right.
so I picked him up, and I'm gonna play his ass.
In that same aspect, if you're taking over a dynasty or if you're not looking to win this year and you want to build, and I hate to say it, put them on the trade block. Bobby Wagner still has some real value. If you're going to build long term, I'm not going to suggest you trade for picks. But I'm going to say if you can get a hold of a couple of these up and comers, or at least one up and comer with upside and some picks, man, you got to put them on the block. But I mean, if I look at everything as a win now aspect, even in dynasty leagues, I try to make those moves. So when I say that, it really depends on your situation and how you like. Everybody runs their teams differently, So now's a good time to sell him, or now is a good time to just keep winning for a couple of years. I wouldn't just get rid of him based off his age at all. He's been nothing but a beast.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's see here. More news.
Just to mention real quick, I know we had some incoming news after we started recording, and I want to make sure that you see this about Sheldon Rankins. DL New Orleans Saints. Peyton expects him with his Achilles to miss all of training camp.
Yikes.
That kind of sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, Achilles is one of the worst injuries, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he's slipping down on my ADP board really quick here. Not that he was really high on it, but this kid is nothing but upside. If he was out there on the field with Cam and Jordan and Davenport, the rookie from last year, or the second-year kid. So I'm a little bit concerned about this for Rankins owners. If he's going to miss all of training camp, even if he manages to start the first week, he is not going to be game ready. So you might want to go ahead and make some other plans.
Yeah, they have a guy there called Malcolm Brown, I think. Or that's his name, Malcolm Brown. Apparently, he got I've heard a little bit of hype, a little rumbling, in the bushes about him. He's
Malcolm Brown. He was a Patriot for a while, I believe.
I'm not 100% sure.
Let me take a see if I can.
He's not even on their depth chart right now.
Okay, I think Malcolm Brown. If it's a Malcolm Brown, I'm thinking about he actually might have been. Either with the Rams last year. But
no, you're right. He was with the Patriots.
Okay.
Yep.
He's a good role player. He had a lot of hype coming out of college back in the day, I believe. But he was kind of a role player for New England. He was a better player on the field for them than he was for us for IDP. Yep. So it's one of those situations. I don't think that just because I'm a Rankins owner, I don't think I'm going to go running out to go get
Brown. Just to go grab him. Yeah, in a deeper D tackle league, maybe you have no other choice. So
there's got to be some other options out there.
Yep. All right, let's see here. What other news do we have? Oh, this is interesting. Jason Pierre-Paul, he hurt his neck or broke his neck in a car accident in the offseason in May. Apparently, early reports were he's not going to play all season, but then that kind of changed to maybe he can play. So ESPN reported over the weekend that apparently he could return in November. I don't know if that means the first week in November. I don't know if that means the last week in November. But he was, he was a big guy for IDP last season. He played he was a top 5, I think, in defensive lineman snaps played. He was a top 15 guy in sacks. He basically never came off the field. But he could be back in November. I'm not stashing him unless I have an IR spot on my team, which, I guess if it's Dynasty, you probably do.
Right.
But what are your thoughts about, him this season coming back late even? Do you think he's even going to be playable? Or who are you looking to replace him with on that Tampa Bay line?
I I wouldn't shy away if you do have that really deep bench, or if you have that IR and you have that chance that some leagues. I was in a league last year that if you put them on IR, they stay on IR. Yeah, I was also in a league if he was IR eligible and he returned, then you could take him off. So it really depends.
Oh yeah, so that if you IR'd him, you had to shut him down for the whole season, huh?
Right.
Oof.
Yeah, but that
fun.
was that Dynasty League, the 32 team, and it was a matter of paperwork. But either way, I mean, he's 30 years old. See,
and that's that magical number we were just talking about too. Yeah. It's just like you look at him and you see all the production and you see all the numbers, but then you're like,
terrible timing.
Yeah, you're like, what am I really? What is he worth? We were just talking about selling Bobby Wagner high. I mean, you probably can you even get anything for Jason Pierre-Paul? A guy who's a top 15 defensive lineman when he's healthy, but now we're looking at him 30 and with a broken neck. So,
I think that if I happen to own him, I am going to see what I can get out of them. I hate to say that, and if it's tempting, I'm going to probably take it. If I can't get something decent, then I'm going to try to just bury him on my depth chart. IR, see where it goes. I mean, you really don't have a choice. Hope for the best. I mean, hopefully, he's an outstanding guy. He's went through the ringer with the Giants, and he's always managed to be relevant in most years, except for when he blew his hand up with a firecracker. So I mean, it's a catch-22 right there. We can move right on. I mean, what does that mean for Carl Nassib and the rest of the fellas down there? I know you're a big fan of Carl Nassib. He's a guy that I like a lot. Now, these guys are being called DEs, but technically, from what I understand, they have been changed in the new scheme to outside linebacker. So, I mean, how do you look at this position when it comes to edge rushers versus DL versus outside linebacker? I like Carl Nassib. I hope that he's still around to be. I hope he's a defensive lineman in most leagues still. I hope a lot of sites haven't changed him yet. What do you think?
Losing him is not. I mean, until November is not good. They got rid of Gerald McCoy, so that's not great. They have that Villa guy from last year, or Vita,
which he was. I'm pretty well sure he was. Go ahead.
He was not great last year.
I think he was also beat up. I think he got hurt early. He had some hamstring issues in the preseason.
And he was just a rookie on a team that was garbage. So, I mean, he probably it's uphill battle from day one in that whole situation for him, it sounds like.
And believe it or not, I'm pretty sure that Vita was the best behind that Payne guy for Washington, was like the second best defensive rookie. Yeah, defensive tackle rookie to come out. I think that if I heard a rumor right, I think this Velveeta at that size that he is, I think he's like 3-something in weight.
Yeah, he's giant.
Was able to run like an outstanding 40, and
with McCoy leaving it, he'll get a chance to showcase what he can do, I suppose, a little more.
Right. I'm avoiding them all. I'm stashing Carl Nassib pretty much if I'm in a redraft.
Yeah, I think Nassib's where you have the only place you can really go. I have him in a dynasty league, and he's on a waiver than another one, but I've got a lot better guys than him right now. He's kind of a shot in the dark, but I think you're losing a guy who played like top 12 in snaps, top 5 in snaps, I think, for defensive linemen in JPP. Right. So Nassib's probably going to get plugged in there, even if they do move him to outside linebacker with his experience playing 3-4 DE. They're probably going to play him there. I know in the league I have him in on MFL, he's still DE eligible. So I'm just kind of hoping that he just gets stuck on the field a lot, and I hope that by default he does something good.
Yeah, he really took a step last year in that rotation. I was really excited. I told people to start watching this guy for bye weeks and stuff like that, and he had some really good games. He actually, the best thing ever happened to him was getting out of Cleveland in his situation. Yeah,
living in the shadow of Myles Garrett, even if he did produce like that last year, it wouldn't have gone noticed as it did this year.
Yeah.
There was a couple other big things that happened. Kevin Byard, safety, highest paid safety in the league now for the Titans. signed a 5-year, $70 million extension through 2024.
Got paid.
He got paid. He got paid well. I know he's not, he's a little less IDP relevant because he is a little bit more of a big play ball hawk, not so much as a downhill tackling guy. But what do you think about him, as this team is evolving and changing? Do you think that could change? Do you think I've read some stuff that he's been more of a leader? Maybe that impacts his play, not that he needs it, but what are you thinking about that? Besides, congrats on the money.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's well deserved. I mean, they needed to pay this guy. He is a key player, probably one of the best athletes on that field. And, he's designated free safety. I do know that they've had a habit in the past with some injuries at the strong safety position that they, especially not last year, but 2017 when he really lit it up, is that they were rotating him up into the strong safety position as the injuries unfolded and putting, I think it was Verrett, maybe not Verrett, the former Saints strong safety that's up there now. But either way, they was bringing him up. Yeah, Vaccaro, maybe.
Oh, Vaccaro, Kenny Vaccaro.
Yeah, his first year with them up there in Tennessee, he was hurt or something, or he lacked in coverage skills up there close to the line. So they were doing this rotation. They didn't do it as much last year. I mean, he is what he is. He's definitely a top 15 at the least talent. So I mean, for IDP owners, don't ignore him this year unless we find out that he's just playing free safety and the rest of the defense has gotten better around him. And I can't say that it has since last year. It's still a good defense for IDP. I just expect the same out of him.
Yeah, he's a beast for sure. Like I said, he's not really big on the tackle numbers. I mean, he floats around the last 2 seasons. He's had about 85, 90. But he's played all 48 games. He's been a Titan. He leads the league in interceptions over the past 2 seasons with 12. He's a ball hawk. He's got a lot of passes defended. Was first team All-Pro in 2017. So, and this last year, I mean, he basically just went out and just did it again. So he's a beast. Like you said, for IDP, he's got some big playability in him. I'm low end 1, maybe a high end 2 for me.
And he's young. He's going to be.
Yeah, that's another thing. He's 25. Yeah. So, I mean, we were just talking about Bethia. He's 35 this season, and he just had an amazing season. So, if you can get Kevin Byard, I mean, he's probably expensive right now, but, I think his ceiling is still to be seen. So.
Oh, yeah. He hadn't even hit his prime. I mean, normally it's 25 to 28 is when they really hit their prime.
Yep.
So he's
injury
still got
free.
upside.
Yep. Yeah, if he can say injury-free. That good for him. Got that money, got that bag. So, live it up. I'm not a Titans fan, but I like seeing guys work hard, get paid. So,
and that's a good division he's in. You got Indianapolis with Luck throwing the ball deep. You got Watson throwing the ball deep. Jacksonville, who knows, but whatever. But I mean, it's a good division to be in for a free safety to begin with.
Yep. All right, there's not really too much more news. I just want to hit on the Cardinals did. I know we started out with Robert Nkemdiche, but the writing was kind of on the wall. The Cardinals signed Matt Longaker. Sorry, I'm butchering his name, but he was on the Rams. He's an outside linebacker, so there's another guy that you can kind of maybe rotate in on your pass rush. And the only
show well. He showed well at spurts. He does have something there.
Yeah,
somebody to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and there's definitely opportunity in Arizona to rewrite your kind of role in your history.
Oh yeah,
so,
As it stands, you can only look at Chandler Jones and hope to God that he's still designated defensive lineman or edge rusher.
Oh, he's a beast.
Yeah,
love him. Yep. Only other thing really was my dude Yannick Ngakoue. He still has not shown up to training camp. That super sucks. I wish he was there. I follow him on Twitter, but he's holding out and he deserves to get paid. I mean, he hasn't been uber productive, but he's been uber consistent, and he's only going to keep getting better, I think. So he's not there in Jacksonville, so keep an eye on the rookie Josh Allen. Again, I think he'll show up eventually. I think the Jaguars would be stupid not to give him a contract.
Right.
But that's kind of the only real relevant IDP news from, over the weekend. So if we want to... I guess we didn't need. Backtracking even further, another one, Jerron Reed, D tackle for the Seahawks.
He got a foot injury, right?
He got hit with a 6-game suspension for a violation of policy. Incident from 2 years ago.
Goodness, yeah, that's killer for if you own him. Or if you've drafted him, he was really tough last year. He really stepped up and was making an impact. So that's killer. That's killer for IDP owners.
Yeah, I'm in an eliminator draft with IDP that's got some kind of crazy score settings. And Jerron Reed was drafted literally probably 2 hours before the news broke. I felt so bad for the owner. Because it's a D tackle premium and all this, so he went kind of high. It was in the first 10 rounds or so. So
I had that happen. I got Mason Foster, and we're getting ready to talk about the Washington thing. I drafted Mason Foster, and like 2 hours later, he was released. So
these things happen.
It happens.
That's one of the things I have. I have this little note that I have kind of fantasy football just thoughts, and one of the top things I have on there is situations change. You can't just, nothing is set in stone. These aren't the 10 commandments, with God's finger on a stone tablet coming off a mountain. These teams, when new coaches come in, things that we forget about. I forgot he even got in this domestic violence thing. This is 2-3 years ago, and boom, now suddenly he's, you're missing him for IDP. So,
and stuff like that really affects if you're in the middle of a draft. It's like this draft that I'm speaking of. We're still going on with getting defensive here with the IDPtipster.com league. And, I already had missed out. It's a 16-team league. I was picking 13th, and I didn't take a running back because all the really good ones were gone in the first and beginning of second round. And next thing I know, all the running backs are gone. So I'd already screwed up my draft. And then I go a few more picks, and because of the scoring system, linebackers are relevant. So I took Foster as I believe I was shooting for my third linebacker in an every week starter. And he got released, and now I'm in limbo. So, I was already behind. And then all of a sudden this news breaks, man. It can make or break. This kind of stuff can make or break you real quick in your draft scheme, and what you want to do. So, yeah, it's part of the game, though. It happens. You're not going to be able to do anything but try to recover. Try to do the best you can from that point. It's affected the rest of my draft personally. So I wanted to take a second here and remind everybody and thank everybody that's listening, and that we are now a full-time fantasy podcast network member. And this is all being brought to you from their network. And I'd also like to ask everybody to make sure that you go over and check out the IDPtipster.com. Check out what the tipsters have for you. We haven't been able to put a huge amount of content out right now, but it is that time at the beginning of the camps are going on, and we're reminding some people of the takes that's been made in the past to, take advantage of now if you didn't back then, because we have a lot of positive news in those dime drops that I happen to personally do. And then we have Jared's 411s on there about the rookies and stuff, amongst all the other podcasts from the Sunday IDP Lives. So, but we have a July special going on right now. If you want to become a member or a subscriber and get all the inside information, including all the tactical tools, the easy start sit charts, the odds makers, and the PAP scores, amongst all the tips that we could personally put out to our subscribers first to give you the edge. So, but we just want to stop for a little commercial break there and remind everybody what we're part of here with Full Time Fantasy, the network and podcast network. And we're excited to be a part of this up and coming network. They are rolling. They are huge, and they have a lot of great content, not only on their site, but on their podcast network on Specker.
Yep. All right. Well, I guess you kind of alluded to it, but that's kind of all the big news from this last week. We may have missed one or two things, guys. We apologize for that. We're not perfect, but we're doing the best we can over here, and we still wanted to get to some of the stuff we planned on talking about before we changed the show format. So you kind of alluded to it again. Mason Foster, inexplicably cut from the Redskins this last week. So they've lost Mason Foster, Reuben Foster, Zach Brown is gone. These are their three essentially starting linebackers.
Wow.
Just gone. Poof. Just disappeared. So
any real veteran presence with any real start time in their history is now gone. Yeah. Wow. I mean, you have John Bostic. Okay, John Bostic, I guess I shouldn't say that. John Bostic was signed. It was kind of under radar signing for John Bostic. Bostic just 2 years ago was with Pittsburgh, or was he with Pittsburgh last year?
He was with Pittsburgh last year.
So the year before he was with Indianapolis. The guy had shown some production by default, if nothing else, in IDP. Not a killer type guy. And now we are possibly sitting here looking at him being the veteran of the Washington linebacker corps. I don't know. I'm going to ask you what you think. What do you think, Jordan?
I don't know. I think it's, people on Twitter, they have a guy, this Sean Dion Hamilton. He didn't do much last year, but I guess he didn't have to do much last year. For me, this just brings up the Landon Collins more and more and more in my mind. He was I think he's a top 5. He's definitely a top 5 for us right now, but he might be pushing into that top 1 or 2 spot for safety because, Bostic is kind of
I think Jared adjusted that for us.
Yeah, kind of a slower, lumbering,
He went ahead and he slotted him on our rankings. I believe he's sitting at number 1 where I originally had him.
Oh, nice. All right, I thought we had Keanu Neal at 1.
Yeah, no, I think he adjusted that for us. But yes.
But Bostic's going to get tackles. I mean, he's not. You're not going to want him. I don't think he's going to show up and show out. I think that's going to be what Landon Collins is going to do. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He's got paid. The Sean Dion Hamilton guy, though, essentially he's going to have to try to be a starter now. From what I don't see any way around that. So, if you need linebacker depth, if you're really weak, if you own Mason Foster or a Reuben Foster and he's on your IR, go pick him up. See what you have on your hands. Maybe he'll be productive by default. As we kind of call it. And maybe he can swallow up some of those tackles before they get to Collins.
Right.
But I'm not touching any of these linebackers except Ryan Kerrigan, who is an absolute beast. He's never missed a game. He's like 3rd or 4th most sacks since coming into the league in like 2012, I think. So he gets tackles, he gets sacks. That's the guy that in that secondary kind of unit area, right behind the D line that I'm looking at.
Yeah. If I was in a sack-heavy league, Kerrigan would be up there in that top 10 outside linebacker view for me. But in a tackle-heavy, me, I don't do outside linebackers, so I don't pay too much attention to them. As far as the situation with the Washington Redskins, this has kind of fell into my alley. Not only did I get screwed when Mason Foster was dropped or released, and I wanted to mention, too, a little bird told me, but I can't quote it because this never came out, that he had actually got himself in a little bit of trouble and then was having some trouble with Gruden as well. That's not been verified, so, we don't really actually know what Gruden is thinking. I don't know what the guy could have done to warrant weren't letting him go. I mean, he was really productive last year. He's, he came in after Reuben Foster goes down, Zach Brown's released. He's looking like the guy to run that defense. I do know a little bit about Deion Hamilton's situation. I actually talked about that in one of our dime drops covering the Redskins. You can find that on the live podcast page now if you'd like to hear it. It was a couple of months ago. It was a ways ago. But either way, surprisingly, all of a sudden, he is no longer the guy that I'm saying this is who I would take as a flyer. He is firmly on the radar, in my opinion, at the moment. John Bostic, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't take him as your starting lineup. That's still crazy at this point. But I wouldn't have a problem taking him as maybe my first possible bye week guy or my second bye week guy or my, off the bench type person, player. But when it really boils down to it, in the news that I've looked at, they're looking at Holcomb as well. They've had Harvey Clemens on there for a couple of years. He's actually kind of a converted big safety. He got a lot of playing time last year, but mainly as a nickel backer or, a coverage linebacker. They were rotating him in and out. What I know about Hamilton was they felt comfortable enough with Hamilton when they were apparently falling out with Zach Brown that the last part of the season, they actually were preferring Hamilton over Brown. So Hamilton got a lot of playing time, and they liked what they've seen. I believe he is an Alabama product or an Auburn product. I can't remember for sure. He is definitely, I think when you look at the John Bostic signing, it was just to bring in another veteran that could play and had a lot of experience on the field. So if I'm looking at it from an IDP perspective, there's not enough about anybody else coming out of the camp right now to touch other than Bostic and Hamilton. I'll take Bostic if he falls, and I'll look at him as a production by default 1 year guy this year. But if I'm looking at a dynasty with upside, I am taking Hamilton over Bostic any day, just for the fact of how Gruden runs his team. I'm not. The Gruden brothers are kind of crazy sometimes on what they do, and we can see that what they've done with Washington, what he's done overall with Washington. He's running. I think defense is almost second. He didn't give it a second thought. I mean, this is kind of crazy to turn around and release all these guys after Reuben, especially after Reuben Foster got hurt. So, but if I'm looking at it, I'm taking my gamble on Hamilton for the upside for the future and Bostic for, production by default possibilities this year. And I'm definitely not doing this high. I'm not doing this high. I'm not planning on either one of them being in my starting lineups on a weekly basis.
Yeah, definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah.
All right. I guess that's the entire situation there with the Redskins. We kind of broke down their linebacker situation, which is tumultuous. So we wanted to cover at least a little bit of the NFC South. I know we really had the most to say about the Atlanta Falcons defense. Mm-hmm. So, Gary, I know you're a big Okaloom guy, so I'll kind of let you go into that.
Yeah, I'm going to butcher that name to death, man. So last year, as soon as Deion Jones, a lot of you know me that happened to know of me. As soon as Deion Jones went down last year, I was on this kid, wrote a nice article from our former site. Unfortunately, that's no longer out on the internet. It's been deleted because of certain reasons between me and that site. But either way, and I just knew he was going to pass up Duke Riley. The kid's a 6th rounder out of Yale. Handpicked by Dan Quinn, which has got one of the best eyes in the business for defensive players, and he ended up the second leading tackler on the team last year, and he did it as a rookie with some. He's a smart kid, and that's all we hear from Dan Quinn is how smart this kid is. He was a converted safety in college. He played a lot of linebacker in college as well. The kid's fast. He's got the smarts. He's not small. He is a big stack guy. He's healthy, and he's in the position right now where he's probably. I'm going to go past saying probably. The reports coming out of camp right now, he's the weak side linebacker. Duke Riley is hurt. There's no competition, even if Duke Riley wasn't missing some time. I think they said that So as far as I'm concerned, and a lot of people were asking me, where would you take Okaloon? We do not yet know for 100%, and I am not a fortune teller, that Okaloon will be on the field for every down. So play with it as that. This is my number one target, deeper. I love to think that this kid is going to be on the field for the 80% of the snaps on the season. He's really going to put some numbers up as a upper linebacker too, right behind. But you're next to Deion Jones. You got Neal healthy. You got all these other situations. So there's just not enough there for me to say, hey man, go get him. He's a linebacker one. That's just suicidal to your lineup. So. But I love what the reports that are coming out currently, and he's already been drafted because in that draft that I'm in right now with getting defensive, and I was upset. I really wanted this kid on this roster for this league, but somebody's listening to me, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, he's really. I think the sleeper status on him is slowly starting to fade off. I actually, speaking of sleeper, I have him on a sleeper app in my main Dynasty IDP league. And on sleeper, he still has a DB tag as well as a linebacker tag. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I've heard that about sleeper.
I have him, right now he's a bench guy for me because I have, some better ones. But I'm looking forward to possibly plugging and playing him, when needed, or maybe even taking over one of the starting spots. He'll definitely be a contender for one of my flex spots every week.
Right.
And the thing about him last year too is he basically produced all on tackles. He didn't have any
Nope.
excuse me, he didn't really have any no forced fumbles, no fumble recoveries, no interceptions. So and he played on limited snaps.
6th round rookie. It's just a 6th round.
And he played on limited snaps. So if you can, I don't want to just extrapolate it out, but he's going to see the field more this year, probably. It just makes sense. Everything is stirring that way. He's going to be playing with a healthy defense. They have Keanu Neal back. They have Ricardo Allen back. They have Deion. Dang it. What? Deion.
Duke Riley?
No, Deion Jones. Oh, my gosh. Can't believe I blanked on that.
Yeah.
Deion Jones is back. So there's, the defense is going to be disruptive. So there's going to be more opportunities to fall on the ball, more opportunities to punch it out of somebody's hand as they're getting dragged down.
Right.
I think there's a lot of upside left to him. So, and again, he's starting to go a little higher in drafts. So I'm doing everything I can to get him on my rosters currently. Like I said, I have him on my main IDP league roster, but I think I think he's a guy that we could be looking at as a top 24 linebacker this time next year without a second glance. So
if Dan Quinn has his way, I still think he wants to run that defense. He just hasn't been able to do it because of injuries and everything else and getting the right personnel. I think he wants to run that defense like he did the last year he was in Seattle, and we're looking at Okaloon being the AJ Wright of the situation. But I want to clarify to some people. So there's a fine line when you're calling flyers, sleepers, and, guys with upside or just a good player. Here's how he started out being a sleeper, was the fact that nobody knew him last year. Everybody was looking at Duke Riley. So at that point, he was a flyer. He turned into a sleeper. And now we turned around at the end of the season after Deion Jones got back in, and everybody's like, well, they're not going to sit here and take Deion Jones off the field. We know that. And everybody knows that Campbell is sitting on the other side, and he's an every down linebacker for Atlanta, So, that leaves, in the last couple of years, the weak side linebacker rotates in and out, right? Well, here's the thing about it. Keeping him a sleeper or whatever over the spring, when I happen to do a dime drop on him and try to keep him on everybody's sleeper radar, This kid does not make mistakes twice. Dan Quinn and that DC, I can't remember his name. Every time they get the chance, they keep repeating, he does not make the same mistake. He is going through right now. He's helping to adjust the defenses. He's actually telling other guys where they should be. This kid is smart. You don't go to Harvard if you're an idiot. You don't make it in there. They don't accept you. So on top of all this whole situation, if he broke out last year, but he was still a sleeper in the spring, but we're still, and it's all in this situation. Everybody's expecting Deion Jones and Campbell to be the main guys. This kid maybe, and it's possible, maybe he only gets 50, 60% of the snaps and he doesn't make it into IDP relevancy other than just a plug and play. But I'm telling you, all the reports that I see is coming out on here. They just love this guy. And I happened to watch a video this morning by a beat writer over there in Atlanta, and he was talking about the formation they were in, and they said, okay, so they gave the names of the players, and it's only a 2 linebacker set. That's all they said about the linebackers. So lo and behold, it was about Campbell going, actually it was about Vic Beasley going out. I watched that tape. The 2 linebackers that were in, that they mentioned, was named Campbell and Oakland. Deion Jones was not there. So maybe it was a thing just to have this in this package. Maybe they wanted to see what was going on. Deion Jones is over getting a drink. Deion Jones probably sitting in a lounge chair along the side in a lazy boy drinking a beer, and they're still going to play him. So don't get me wrong. But I love to see they're putting Oakland in that situation because they're going to depend on him this year. One way or the other, he is going to be a key part of this great, fast defense that Atlanta is going to put out as long as everybody stays healthy.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think he's going to be someone you want. I'm going to circle back around to the very beginning, though. We were talking about Hason Reddick, and we said something about Josh Bynes still being – he's actually – I didn't realize this. He's a free agent. I just want to circle back, cover our bases. He's a free agent, and he visited the Bills this week. So he was their second leading tackler last year, but he's gone. And I kind of forgotten they added a couple of guys. Well, not a couple. They added Terrell Suggs. But looks like it's going to be Reddick, Jordan Hicks, and Brooks Reed right now as their starters. So Josh Bynes.
Brooks Reed is an outside linebacker, am I correct?
He's
We're
listed
talking
as
inside.
He's listed as weak side.
On what? Where?
On ourlads.com. I'm looking at the Cardinals.
I hate
chart.
Ourlads.
Oh.
Yeah, I personally, there's only the actual depth charts that I'll look at in season, especially when as soon as they'll post them, is the NFL teams themselves. And then I happen to use one that I trust. I did not like Ourlads. Brooks Reed has never been an inside linebacker in his life at all. He's always been an outside linebacker. He's not built to be inside. He's not fast enough. He doesn't have those skills. From what I understand, and I don't mean to correct you, Jordan, because you're reading directly from a site that you should be able to depend on. Right now, the only inside linebackers that I can take notice of is that Joe Walker that used to be with the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll probably know if they're really concerned depth-wise if Cardinals go and sign somebody. They might call up Bynes again. Who knows? But as far as I'm concerned, I don't trust Hicks to stay healthy. He hasn't made it through too many years staying healthy. And the only thing that I want to touch is probably Reddick and hope for the best. Walker showed well in Philadelphia. I don't know if you remember when he got some playing time in some preseasons games and stuff when Hicks was sitting out. He actually showed pretty good. And he got some time on the field. I'm kind of surprised Philadelphia didn't hold on to him. But he must have got paid a little bit more. He's interesting. But, I just want to make sure and clarify, as far as I know, Brooks Reed has never been an inside linebacker.
Yeah, I really just brought it up because we said that Bynes was still on the team and he's not. So I'm not really sure who's playing what position, especially with Hason Reddick being hurt. It was more commentary on Josh Bynes not being there anymore. So
You
he's not even
remember
on a team
Bynes
right
when he
now.
was supposed to break out?
No, not really.
He was with Baltimore, and it was right after Ray Lewis, I believe, retired, and they were going through some stuff. I think it was the year before they drafted Mosley. They were expecting him to step up, and he did okay, if I remember right. But he's bounced around since then. He's been in Detroit. He didn't show well for Detroit at all. And when he went in with Arizona, he just kind of, I don't know, it was more of the regime there, liked his attitude, liked his veteran presence, and that's what got him in the starting lineup off the top last year. Plus, he knew the defense. So, but, I mean, as far as Bynes, really, if we could see where he lands, I don't like Buffalo because of Milano and all that. So he's just a veteran signing as far as I'm concerned when it comes to Buffalo. But it could be interesting. There are still a few teams out there that could use someone like Bynes to step in. Yeah, they really could. How big of a role, who knows? It really depends where he signs. But I'm glad you gave us that update. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much everything I got for today. I know we're coming back on for the Q&A here in a little bit, so I guess if you want to close us out.
Well, yeah, I'm going to let Steve take us home here in a minute. Yeah, and as he mentioned, we also have a Sunday IDP Live Q&A where we come on YouTube Live and Twitter, Periscope if it happens to be working, and we address anybody's concerns, topics, or whatever in a live show for a while on Sundays. So be sure to check that out. Besides this podcast, please come over to the idptipster.com and take it away, Steve. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Sunday IDP Live. We'll see you again next week.